We still do not have a verdict in the Trevor Averill case. He is charged with depraved indifference murder and manslaughter in the death of his 2-month-old daughter, Harper. In closing arguments, prosecution reminded the jury about evidence in Harper's medical records proves their case. Averill's attorneys insist the state hasn't proven anything. Here's News Center Maine's Raya Wooten.
State prosecutors gave closing arguments, presenting their case to the jury one last time, while Trevor Averill's defense attorneys asked them to think long and hard about their decision.
At age 2 months and 22 days, she was, of course, unable to speak. She wasn't able to tell anyone that she was unsafe in her own home.
State prosecutor Lisa Bogue reminds jurors of the happy, healthy baby that Harper's parents say she was. But Bogue says the baby's body told a different story.
Harper Averill certainly can't tell you now what happened to her, but her body can.
Bogue points to testimony from multiple doctors, including a pediatric neurologist and a radiologist, who provided direct care to Harper. They said that Harper's x-rays showed an old healing rib fracture, a skull fracture, and they say her CT scans showed bleeding in her brain, spine, and eyes. Trevor's story is that on July 22, 2020, his daughter choked while he was bottle feeding her in the middle of the night. He said she couldn't breathe, and that's what led to her death.
That babies don't choke on formula or liquid to the point of not breathing. They don't choke on liquid on formula to cause subdural hemorrhages. They don't choke on liquid in formula to have spinal injuries and retinal hemorrhaging.
Bogue says Harper's injuries indicate that Trevor may have shaken her. She says injuries, old and new, should be considered together, pointing to a pattern of possible abuse. Defense attorney Vern Parody says otherwise.
These doctors say, oh, you can't take the skull fracture and the prior bleeding and the rib fracture that happened who knows when. You can't take that stuff and look at it independently. It has to be a constellation. Why does it have to be the constellation? Why?
Parody argues that new fatherhood was the happiest time of Trevor's life.
Despite the fact that the state has tried to paint that man as a monster who's sitting around abusing his child.
Defense attorney Vern Parody says that no one has ever shaken a baby to determine what injuries shaking a baby could cause, asserting Trevor's innocence. In Auburn, Raya Wooten, News Center Maine.